ॐ अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Sarvebhyo Namaha. Welcome to this session. We've been discussing about the three gunas of Prakriti in the last 3 or 4 sessions, and today we will conclude our discussion on this. I'll do a quick recap before we go into today's topic. We began by saying that understanding the three gunas of Prakriti well will help us to better understand our own Swabhav. We will touch upon what Swabhav means today. Swabhav influences our mental states, our tendencies, preferences, behaviors, and so on. We will also be able to understand other people's Swabhav. So, Swabhav forms a core construct or as a core concept and construct in our Indian psychology. We will know how to go beyond Swabhav, that we will touch upon today, and seek the deep inner happiness. And we will understand Bhakti as the process to connect with Bhagavan. So this is what understanding the three gunas of Prakriti helps us to do. We began with this shloka in the 14th chapter, where the three gunas are first introduced. We looked at this diagram, which tells us about the three gunas as being progressively better than the other, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and finally Vishuddha Sattva, which is beyond all the three of them. We did an overview of these points. We will again come back to this when we conclude today's session. Then this was the broad framework, and we saw where our discussion currently is. We looked at these shlokas describing Maya, Yoga Maya, Mahamaya, the difference between them. We observed this. Bhagavan is beyond Prakriti. Then the influences of the gunas on the living beings. First, the general influence, broadly speaking, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. How Sattva is purifying. It gives us natural happiness. It gives us actually the connection with ourself in the best possible way. Rajas and Tamas, on the other hand, they increase our absorption in Maya, in samsara. Rajas by favoring greed, lust, the craving and attachment to matter. Tamas by fostering delusion, confusion, darkness. Then we looked at 12 aspects of life, the gunas, how they influence these 12 aspects of life. These are covered in the 17th and 18th chapters of Bhagavad-gita in detail. So we did an overview of them. The first aspect was happiness, then food, then buddhi or intelligence, dhriti, resoluteness, jnana, knowledge. Access to knowledge is influenced by the three gunas. The karta, the actor. Karma, the activity itself. Then tyag or renunciation, letting go. Tapasya, austerity. Here, sattvika tapasya is of three types. We touched upon them, kayika, vachika, manasika. Then worship or yajna, how it's influenced by the three gunas. The object of the worship, upasya. And finally, dana, charity, the nature of dana. So all these we touched upon in the last few sessions. Today, we begin with this shloka. Sri Bhagavan says in the 18th chapter, 40th shloka, Na tadasti prithivyam va divi deveshu va punaha sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadebhis syat tribhir gunaihi. Essentially, he says that there is no living being on this earth, either on this earth or among the devas or anywhere in the material existence that is free from the influence of the three gunas. So it's not that just human beings or certain species existing on this earth are influenced by the three gunas, but all living beings, which includes Brahma. Brahma is considered the topmost living being in the universe, the closest to Bhagavan, right? Topmost in the sense of consciousness. His consciousness is the most refined. He is in very high level of sattva. But even being in high level of sattva does not mean that one is free from the other two gunas. Rajas and tamas also exist in a very, very minute way in a person who is in a high level of sattva. So all the three gunas are present in all the living beings in this universe, in this material existence. So it's very important to know this, because until one becomes completely free from them, one does not get mukti. Similarly, even prema, which is we said is a higher objective than mukti, when prema comes, prema automatically frees the person from the influence of the three gunas. Or prema nullifies the effect of the three gunas completely. And prema, by its inherent nature, see, mukti is not a requirement for prema. Prema automatically creates the situation of mukti. Situation of mukti is a natural outcome, a side effect of getting prema. Okay, now keeping this in the background, we will look at the concept of how, because of the three gunas, Prakriti operates through the three gunas and creates the samsara. Samsara means material existence. Prakriti is the one that fosters or facilitates samsara, material existence for the living beings. So samsara is a chakra. Chakra means that it feeds itself. How is it so? We'll just see that. So ajnana is the basis, and the three gunas, they operate, in the you can say, in the context of ajnana, or ajnana becomes the substratum on which they operate. So what drives samsara? The root is in the ichcha and dvesha. I've used only the word ichcha here, ichcha or desire. But dvesha is nothing but another form of ichcha, you can say. So hatred, wanting, harm for another living being, wanting harm or wishing ill for others, feeling pleasure when somebody else suffers, feeling happiness when somebody else is miserable, and feeling miserable when somebody else is happy. This is dvesha, ichcha and dvesha. These become the root actually. And these influence our buddhi. Intelligence is a material thing. Intelligence by itself is neither good or bad, but it's influenced by ichcha and dvesha. And according to the influence of ichcha and dvesha, the buddhi has its functioning. Buddhi, intelligence, or you can say knowledge also, is the basis for buddhi. That's included here. In Vedanta philosophy, jnana and buddhi are two different things. In Nyaya, in Nyaya philosophy, both are the same. The two words are synonyms of each other. Then, buddhi drives the different types of karma and its phala. Karma means the activities that we do. In Nyaya, between jnana and karma, there is ichcha, the desire to do. Based on jnana, there is ichcha. Ichcha and jnana influence each other. Now, ichcha decides kritihi. Kritihi means kritihi refers not to activity as such. Kritihi refers to the thing that comes before action happens. Maybe the intent to act, the effort, prayatna. They translate that as prayatna. Kriti they say is prayatna. So before you actually manifest the action, before the action manifests, there is something else that comes within us, grows within us, and that is, you can say, present in the Atma. The Atma can have Kriti, but the Atma does not have karma. Karma is done by the agents outside. So whatever it is, these are all technical things. Karma in Vedanta is again done by agents other than the Atma. Atma itself does not do karma. Prakriti makes the karma happen. But karma happens, and because it happens because of this icha and dvesha, there is karma phala involved. It doesn't happen with detachment, it happens with attachment. And because of the attachment, there is karma phalam. Karma phalam means the fruits of the karma. Basically, the two broad fruits of punya karma and papa karma, or punya phalam and papa phalam. So, this punya phalam and papa phalam manifests in different ways, which give happiness or misery to the living being. Now, that karma phalam creates anubhav for the jivatma. So, as activity happens, different types of experiences are realized by the jivatma. And these experiences, they lead to what is called as samskara. Samskara, you can say the closest translation in English would be deep impressions, subconscious impressions, approximate translation, which reside in the, you see, in Western psychology, we talk about the subconscious mind, we say, right? There's something that is not always, we are not conscious of, the thoughts that we are not conscious of, but there is something else which is deeper, which influences our thoughts and so on. So, samskara has a very similar interpretation, although here it's not just about thoughts in the mind. It is something much deeper than that. In Nyaya, we say samskara is the cause of smriti. It leads to smriti. Anubhav leads to samskar, and samskar leads to smriti, memory, remembrance. So we remember something that happened in the past because of the bridge of samskara. And that samskara, it's understood to be something that carries forward from one birth to another birth. So experiences create samskaras. That is why the kind of activities we do, the understanding is that the kind of associations we have, the kind of experiences that give us happiness or misery, that ones that we like and so on, create appropriate samskaras, or accordingly they create samskaras. And that in turn decides what we do in the future. Samskaras create vasana. Vasana means tendencies, preferences, proclivities. Right? Samskara by itself is not tendency. Samskara is the root of that tendency. And those vasanas in turn drive our icha. So it's a cycle. As we have, you can think of this cycle as being both positive and negative. It could be positive for people who decide to take it in that direction. It could be negative for people who make those kind of choices. So if I, for example, decide to associate with people who are saintly, people who are very sattvic, people who are consciously removing impurities from themselves, who are practicing the path of purity, who consciously stay away from all negative things, and who are consciously thinking about going more and more towards Bhagavan, realization of Bhagavan, who are doing bhakti, etc., then this cycle will run in a particular way. But if I decide to associate with people who are, completely absorbed in material enjoyment, the other extreme, let's say, at any cost, they will seek out material enjoyment. So they will, indulge their senses as much as they can. That's what they believe is the goal of life. The purpose of life is to maximize sensual indulgence, sensual enjoyment. And, the more you can do that, the better you can do that, the more rewarding your life is. So with people with this belief, there are many of them, and they are good people. I'm not saying they are bad people. They are not wicked people. They are good people. They're not necessarily wicked people. They can be wicked also, but generally they are good people. So they have this understanding of the world, and then they will pursue that accordingly. They will go towards people who are also like them, and they will indulge in different types of things, like the way they eat food, kind of food they eat, the way they spend their time, kind of places they go to, kind of things they buy. All these things are influenced by that kind of thinking. So now, two extremes of people. Now, depending on the kind of people we associate with, and the choices we make in connection with them, this cycle will run differently. This cycle will run accordingly, and it will reinforce itself. So as you experience the association of saintly people, you develop a liking for it. Initially, when you hear this theoretically and you want to try it out, then you may wonder why is it considered so good and so on. But as you do it increasingly, like now, for example, Sarthak went and stayed in an ashram, right? I'm sure he can share his experiences with us too. He has developed probably a liking for that. He saw how they live. He saw their sattvic, habits and so on. And there were others also with him who experienced all that. So he developed certain impressions in his mind, and they will be samskaras in him, right? And they will then feed him or influence his future decisions of how as he pans out his life now onwards, the kind of things he does, the way he spends his time, the food he eats, the choices he makes, the kind of things he buys, uh, all those things will be influenced. Okay, Sarthak, so I've taken your name and given your example. Would you like to say a few words on this before I proceed further?
No, no. Thank you so much, sir. I think we are good to go.
Okay, so what I did I say something inappropriate? Was I right in whatever I said?
No, sir, no, sir. I'm only humbled that you took me as an example.
Okay, but technically, am I correct that you were influenced by when you stayed there for 30 days in the ashram? 30 days,
Yes, sir.
3 months, sorry, 90 days you stayed there.
Yes, sir. Definitely, definitely. So the environment over there, ecosystem over there, not just physically, but overall, the ecosystem over there, it is very conducive towards Shastric thinking, and not just the Sakama Karma kind of, but the Vedanta thing that we always talk about. So how do you look at the purpose of your life, and how do you go about pursuing it, and deliberating on your self goal? So your entire day is planned in that way. Your schedule is in such a manner that it helps you to listen and then think about, contemplate. So shravana manana nididhyasana, and along with seva opportunities. So all of it was present over there. So yes, it has definitely given me many things to take back and implement accordingly as I go ahead.
Good. So one simple question. If you were to rate us on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 means you liked it very much, 1 means you didn't like it at all. Where would you put this, your level of liking for the experiences you had?
So I'll probably put it at 8 or 9.
Hmm.
So yes, so the only reason why I would give, say, 1 star lower, or it is primarily because it maybe because it's completely knowledge oriented. So that, but and I think I'll say it to be 9 only, 9 or 10, because it you have that leniency, flexibility, that you can adjust in your particular sadhanas or the practices if you have the intention to. While at the same time, it is not very strict on uh, certain things that you have to be over here at this particular time only. But most of the participants were following that. So I would definitely recommend it, sir, to someone who is quite uh, interested in it. So that is a very good experience, definitely.
Okay.
9 to 10.
Thank you very much. So now you can see the Anubhav experience has created, in you a liking. So this liking will stay as a samskara. It will be recorded in your samskaras, and that in turn will influence future decisions. Do you agree with me? As you now go forward in your life, certain decisions you take will be based, I mean, or not, even if it's not consciously, but the tendencies towards certain things will be influenced by that.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Good. So this actually will reinforce it. My idea was to just say that this reinforces, the cycle is a reinforcing cycle. Similarly, bad experiences will create opposites, will create, for example, things like I won't go there again. I won't, I don't want to do that. The tendency to do that thing will come down and so on. So there's reinforcement in both ways. And depending on what we do, we get reinforced in that thing. So now here, the concept of swabhav, is sort of entrenched in this. Samskara and vasana, you can say together, form our swabhav. Or rather, you can say samskara is the basis for swabhav. Samskaras that we accumulate They store, the you can say that they are the genes, the subtle genes for our swabhav. Swabhav means what? Swabhav, like we use in Hindi also, right? It's that unique nature of that person's intrinsic character, nature, which defines that personality. Okay, it's you can say a very rough, the Western concept of personality. A lot of personality theories exist in Western psychology. And people who do research in psychology or OB and so on, they draw heavily upon these theories. The Indian concept of swabhav very roughly corresponds to the Western concept of personality, although it's not exactly the same. So swabhav here is based on samskara, subtle samskara. And these samskaras, they shape the swabhav of that jivatma. Swabhav is something that's not spiritual, it's not in the atma, it's a material thing. It is something with which a person is born, that jivatma, when it takes birth, that's why it's swabhav. He comes into that bhav, bhava means existence. He comes into that existence in a given birth with that swabhav. He is born with swabhav. And that swabhav shapes the way that person lives, influences the way the person makes choices, the behavior of that person, and so on. So swabhav is influenced by samskara, and here is where the three gunas have a connection to the swabhav. So you will find that some people's swabhav is such that they prefer very sattvic things. Some people prefer very rajasic things. Some people prefer very tamasic things. So swabhav is a very important concept. And swabhav is connected to the three gunas. The three gunas, samskara, swabhav, they're all connected to each other. Now, I want to just show you very quickly how swabhav is what eventually shapes the four varnas, the varna-wise classification of the duties and responsibilities of a living being. Sri Bhagavan says in the fourth chapter, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam, guna karma vibhagashaha, tasya kartaram api mam, vidhyakartaram avyayam, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam, guna karma vibhagashaha, tasya kartaram api mam, vidhyakartaram avyayam. So he says the system involving the classification of human beings into four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, is based on the guna, nature, and karma, specified duties. So guna and karma are mapped onto each other, and swabhav is the basis for that. And he says that this was created by him, was created by me. Even though I am its creator, that is, he is the creator, he says, I am not the creator, and I am unchanging and imperishable. What he means is that, see, ultimately, he is the Sadharana Karana, means he is the root cause of everything. Bhagavan is the root cause of everything. At the same time, he is not the cause because he is not directly involved in making it happen. Prakriti is involved in making it happen. His Prakriti, which works under his directions or his intention. He desires, and Prakriti manifests it. Okay, so he is not the creator also. He is completely detached from it. It also is a meaning of saying aham akarta. A person who is detached from the work he does is said to be not the creator of the results of that work, because that work was done with complete detachment as a matter of duty. So even for a human being, if that anasakti or detachment is present in the consciousness, the work is done sincerely with responsibility, but with complete detachment from the results of the work. Then that person is a akarta, or not the creator, or not the doer. Okay, so that meaning also is implied here. Ultimately, what we want to know is that this traces back, the four varnas trace back to Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the basis for them. They are not created by human beings. Human beings follow them. So, what is the varna wise classification? We have the Brahmana at the top. When I say top, I don't mean in terms of a social hierarchy, it is a top in terms of responsibility. So, Brahmana, the predominant guna that defines a Brahmana is Sattva. And accordingly, according to that guna, the duties and responsibilities of the Brahmana are the study of Shastra. That's the primary duty. Swadhyaya. Shastradhyanam, Shastra Swadhyaya. Then teaching. Patanam. So Patana, Patana. Yajana, Yajana. Yajana means to do worship, to do yajna. That's the primary responsibility for a Brahmana. Then yajana means making others do it, engaging others in it. People of the other varnas, they need a Brahmana's presence, a Brahmana's guidance to do their worship. So Brahmana helps them. Brahmana guides them, and according to his guidance, they do, including the Kshatriyas. Then similarly, dana pratigrahana. Dana means giving dana to others. So a Brahmana's duty involves giving dan. Even the most basic activity of teaching others is considered to be yoga dan. That is, it's an activity of jnana dan or yoga dan. And receiving dan means receiving from others, giving to others, receiving from others. So all the time the Brahmana is also doing that. Giving to others, receiving, doesn't accumulate anything for himself. This is Brahmana. Then Kshatriya. The Kshatriya's predominant gunas are Sattva mixed with Rajas. Sattva and Rajas together. So Kshatriya has Sattva in him, not as much as the Brahmana, because Rajas is also present dominantly in the Kshatriya. And this mixture of the two gunas drives the Kshatriya to prefer activities of administration, the desire to become the master, Ishvara Bhav. Bhagavad-gita says Ishvara Bhav is present in the Kshatriya. The desire that I should become the CEO of the company, the desire that I should become the director of the institute, the desire I should become the team leader, the desire to be the person giving instructions to others, right? The desire to implement rules. This desire is naturally present in the Kshatriya, but not in the Brahmana. The Brahmana doesn't desire like that. The Brahmana may do administration only in a contingency, but not normally. Similarly, protection of others. The Kshatriya is naturally inclined to protect other people. The Kshatriya feels good when he extends his protection to others, not when he harms others. So he wants opportunities where he will do that protection. Okay, it could be a human being whom he is protecting, or it could be an animal also, like a cow or a horse. So cows, Goshala, Goseva requires protection, right? So Kshatriyas, they are forward in that. They go forward and they take responsibility to protect the go. Right? So many instances in the Puranas for that. Similarly, in the war, says Bhagavad Gita says, Yuddhecha api apalayanam means not running away from the battle. So Kshatriya, even when he's in the middle of a very, you can say, uh, very serious battle where he knows that he is being overpowered by the enemy. The enemy is too powerful. The Kshatriya will never turn around out of fear. He is fearless. He is trained to become fearless. He is willing to die. Death for him is not a matter of fear. Okay. He says that, okay, if I have to die, then by dying, I will go to the higher worlds. My existence, my future existence will be better than this if I die. If I don't die, I win the war, then my future existence will also be better. With either way, by doing my duty seriously and not running away from it, I create a better existence for myself. So there is fearlessness and he leads in all fronts without fear. Okay. But here you can see the Kshatriya also has Shastra. Swadhyay is also a part of a Kshatriya's duty. So Brahmana and Kshatriya both study Shastra. The Vaishya also does that. Vaishya's predominant gunas are Rajas and Tamas. And accordingly, the Vaishya's responsibilities involve protection of the go, his business, agriculture, Shastra study. So Shastra study is there for Vaishya too. All three of them, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they undergo the Upanayana Samskara. Upanayana Samskara means giving the, what we call the Janevu. The Janevu is not worn only by Brahmanas, it's also worn by Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, and the mantra is given to them. There is the mantra of, Gayatri for the Brahmana. There's a mantra called Trishtup for the Kshatriya, and some other mantra for the Vaishya. So they have Jagati, I think. Jagati and Trishtup, they are mantras for Kshatriya and Vaishya. So they are also recipients of Diksha in the Upanayana, and they are called Dvija. All three of them are called Dvija. Dvija means twice born, the person who has a second birth. The first birth is the biological birth from the mother's body. The second birth is the Upanayana Samskara, where the Guru gives Diksha in these mantras, and then Adhyayana begins, Veda Shastra. So, of course, the Brahmana is responsible for the Veda, but some exposure to Veda and the other Shastras, allied Shastras, like, for example, for the Kshatriya, there is the Shastra which requires them to do Niti, administration, and then there is Dhanur Vidya, different types of education is given to them. Similarly, for Vaishyas too, appropriate education is given. So they all stay in the Gurukula. And then the Shudra is predominantly in Tamas. And the Shudra doesn't go through Upanayana Samskara. The Shudra has only one Samskara, apart from his birth, goes through his Grihastha Ashrama, that is Vivaha Samskara. Vivaha Samskara is the only Samskara for the Shudra. The Brahmana goes through 16 Samskaras. Kshatriya and Vaishya also go through many of them, not all the 16. The Shudra goes through only one. That is the Vivaha Samskara and becomes a Grihastha. Kshatriya does not have the other three ashramas. See, the Brahmana goes through all the four ashramas: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. Kshatriya goes through only three of them: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha. Vaishya goes through only two of them: Brahmacharya and Grihastha, and Shudra only one, the Grihastha ashrama. Okay, so there is no swadhyaya, there is no diksha from the guru and so on. The Shudra's perfection comes when the Shudra serves the other three: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. So when I say serves, what I mean is he plays a supportive role, supports them in their respective responsibilities. For the Brahmana, for example, preparing the place for performing the yajna, keeping the surroundings clean, bringing the materials required, okay, whatever they are supposed to bring, the carrying it for the Brahmana, arranging it for them to keep it ready. For the Kshatriya, for example, in the matters of protection, administration, they need assistants. They need people who are strong to carry things for them, to fight with them. Shudras will help in the war while fighting. Similarly, for Vaishya, different ways in which they do their business, they help them. The Shudra's perfection comes in doing paricharyatmakam karma. Paricharyatmakam means rendering very devoted service. Okay, so these are not to be misinterpreted as exploitation of the lower classes by the higher classes, like the way it is projected by the Western authors, and of course many other Indian authors too have followed that. This is not meant to be an exploitative hierarchy. It's a hierarchy which naturally comes with Swabhav. That's the point I'm trying to make here. Swabhav, according to the three gunas, defines the tendencies. It comes through the samskaras as a result of the three gunas and defines the tendencies and natural likings of the person. If you put a Shudra in a Brahmana's job, okay, you can do that. You can put a Shudra to do a Brahmana's job. The Shudra does not have a natural liking for it. The Shudra will do it because of some other reason, some other compulsion, maybe social compulsion or because there is money in it. Today, decisions are not taken according to our swabhav. Our career decisions are taken according to, where is more money? Where can I grow faster and become, the bigger person soon? How can I grow fast? So this kind of things decide our career choices, what we learn and so on. So people struggle because our choice of activity is not aligned to the swabhav that is present in us. It's not meant to be that way. Natural design is that if our swabhav and activity are aligned to each other, then we do what we like to do, what is naturally within our liking. Okay? So if we do that, then that work becomes the best possible. The quality of work that we deliver becomes perfect, or it becomes as close to perfection as possible. Although nothing is perfect, Sri Bhagavan says, but it becomes much better than somebody who is put there because of some other compulsion, not because of their liking it, not because of their natural liking to it. Then they have to go. That's why stress happens. Stress happens when we are put into work which doesn't naturally appeal to us, which is not our natural liking. Okay, so now these classes are not again artificial. To explain this, just go by normal observation. If you observe in normal society, today's society, where these terms are not used, we don't use these terms Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, but we find these occupations also existing. And you can broadly divide society according to these occupations. You will see a class of people who is involved in teaching. Teaching is one major occupation, right? Teaching and studying. So in universities, professors, their job is to teach and study, develop new knowledge by doing research. They are in the business of knowledge, right? I shouldn't say business, they are in the activity, occupation of knowledge. Similarly, teachers in schools, They are learning, teaching, developing the curriculum, improving the curriculum. They are in the job of transmitting knowledge. Okay, so this is a natural occupation existing in society. It is not created by, by the Vedic culture, and people who wanted to become more powerful, they became Brahmanas. It's not like that. It naturally exists. Similarly, the activity of governance, administration, leadership in running society, running organizations, that's a natural occupation. The activity of doing business, trading, buying and selling, that is natural. Similarly, the activity of service, all kinds of supporting services have to be done, and that's a natural activity. So these natural activities, the Gita says, are aligned to Swabhav. In every activity, there is Swabhav that should be taken into account. And if it is done with Swabhav in mind, then that activity happens perfectly and people become happy. That is why Dharma is based on this. Dharma heavily has a component of this mapping between Swabhav and Karma. Swabhav and Karma is this thing. So Bhagavan uses the phrase Swabhavaniyatam Karma. Okay, before I go forward, this is an observation I would like to also point out, that a majority of the population is actually outside the Varnashrama system. The Varnashrama system that we followed is based on the Veda, and some proportion of the population actually followed this. In India, in what we call Bharatavarsha, which is actually bigger than what we today call India. Today's India is defined by some political boundaries, and that has come as a result of so many historical developments over time. But what was called Bharatavarsha earlier was a much bigger land, and even regions like Afghanistan. Of course, Pakistan, that we very well know, happened just a few decades back. Bangladesh also, similarly Nepal. But Afghanistan was not in recent history, but Afghanistan also was a part of Bharatavarsha. Similarly, there is evidence that lands like what is today Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, was also a part of Bharatavarsha. Someone was telling me that what we today call Caspian Sea, okay, was actually the place where the Rishi Kashyapa resided, and that's how the name Caspian came. Okay, now I don't know whether that was coined by somebody artificially or whether that's researched and so on. You can Google and find out. Similarly, someone else, somebody from Samskrita Bharati, one scholar told me this, that uh, what is called as Mecca and Medina by the Muslims, that's their holy place, the holiest place for them, Mecca, Medina, is actually from the word Makha Medini. Makha Medini in Sanskrit means, Makha means yagya, the fire sacrifice, Makha. Makha means yagya. And Medini means Prithvi or Bhumi. So, Makha Medini in Sanskrit literally means the place where worship is done. That's Makha Medini, place where yajna is done. So this scholar told me that Makka Medini in Sanskrit became Makkah and Medina in their language. And they are now considering that as a place of worship. So at that time, some worship was going on by, by the Vedic process, and that was replaced by their way of worshipping. So in this way, Bharatavarsha was actually much bigger than what we know today as India. And the population that existed in India, in Bharatavarsha, was guided by the Varnashrama. Varnashrama dominated the civilized society. You can say the translation for Varnashrama can be the civilized population which followed Dharma, the population which lived by rules, regulations, which had strict boundaries, well-bounded activities and culture which had its well-defined boundaries. Um, Avarniya refers to all other people, all other human beings, which were actually the majority, which were outside this, which existed in harmony with this. The Varnashrama people existed in harmony with the Avarniya, not that there was a battle between them, but they were the majority. So they are today called tribals. Tribals, and we use terms like OBC and SC and ST and things like that. They are not Shudras. Okay, just because we say somebody is SC, ST, that doesn't mean they are Shudras. Shudras also are part of Varna only. So they are not necessarily SC, ST, OBC, and so on, but a large part of that population is actually Avarniya. It has become today SC, ST, OBC, and extremely backward class, and all those things. And tribals, what we call tribals today, which in Jharkhand, a lot of tribal population exists. So they are all avarniya. They don't belong to any varna. Okay, now going forward, these two shlokas, in the third chapter and 18th chapter, very similar shlokas. They directly touch upon this topic of श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः paradharmo bhayavahah. The shloka in the third chapter. Similarly, in the 18th chapter, Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat swabhavaniyatam karma kurvanapnoti kilbisham. So you can see in these two shlokas, the first line is the same. Okay, the first line is repeated in the third chapter. Whatever came is repeated in the 18th chapter. The second line is different, but effectively they say the same thing. So it says that doing one's own dharma, swabhava niyatam karma, that is dharma, like if I'm a brahmana, then do the brahmana's duty. Even if it is done imperfectly, I'm not doing it perfectly, I'm not the best possible brahmana, but still sticking to my duty is better for me than doing somebody else's duty and doing that perfectly. Let's say I think that I am better at business than at studying the Veda or something like that. If I am entrusted with the responsibility of a Brahmana, I am basically a sattvic personality, then I should stick to that. I should not get tempted by, the richness, the wealth and the wealth, monetary prosperity that comes in being a Vaishya and run towards that. Stick to this, and this is what will make me perfect. Says death while following, that is swadharme nidhanam shreyah, even death when it comes in doing one's own activities is better. Paradharmo bhayavaha. Going into somebody else's duty and doing that, even if it's done properly, leads to a fearsome outcome. It gives you papa. Okay. Similarly, in the 18th chapter, it says, Swabhava niyatam karma kurvan apnoti kilbisham. By doing your own activity. So it doesn't mean everybody has to become a Brahmana to go to God, to become God realized, to get Bhagavad Sakshatkar. Being a Kshatriya, being a Shudra, being a Vaishya, doing that work properly is enough to develop the realization, develop the knowledge required to go towards Bhagavan. Okay, so Karma Yoga is not only for Brahmanas. Karma Yoga or any form of yoga is for all the four. By doing their duty, they obtain the jnana, they become more sattvic, and they continue doing their duty and they develop jnana. And when they develop enough jnana, they're able to detach from their duties, contemplate on Bhagavan, and go towards Him. So, this is the importance of Swabhav and Swabhavaniyatam karma. Okay, next. Going forward, quickly, anybody has any question on what we have discussed? Anything to ask or say? Yeah, Vedangi.
So when we are saying that just by doing whatever work has been not assigned, but like whatever work, whatever duty is more natural for the four varnas, and but just by doing that work, we develop enough gyan to be able to detach ourselves and like have that realization. So when we are saying that, I'm not able to understand. So apart from brahmanas, how does that happen for the other three? How are they able to develop that gyan which leads them towards there?
Yeah. So, first of all, by doing what is naturally one's duty, one's mind remains under proper control. The mind remains undisturbed. The mind is in a proper place, it's properly situated. Thoughts in the mind flow in a less disturbed manner, there's less stress. Mind is more under one's control. One experiences a natural sense of happiness, being in one's own thing. Now, for developing jnana, atma jnana, when you say jnana for going towards Bhagwan, we refer to atma jnana, not merely theoretical knowledge of something material. For atma jnana, one needs to be aligned to the path of yoga. One needs to know about yoga, for example, karma yoga, and one needs to start practicing that form of yoga under the guidance of somebody. Okay, so even a Shudra, for example, if a Shudra comes towards karma yoga, now under the guidance of a Brahmana, a guru, a Brahmana guru or a guide, that person starts cultivating the thoughts of detachment, theoretically understanding the nature of the Atma, right? So he may not study the Veda, he may not be capable of studying the Veda or studying Sanskrit and reading the Puranas or other Smriti Shastra. But by just getting advice from an appropriately superior personality, a more educated personality, that person starts practicing and cultivating those thoughts, starts doing Bhagavad Dhyan, doing japa, etc. And that's how that person also makes progress. Vedangi, does it address your question fully or?
Yes, sir, I think it does.
Okay, please think about it. So for doing yoga, it is not necessary to be Brahmana or belong to any particular Varna. Anybody can do yoga. For that matter, even the Avarniyas. In today in Kali Yuga, even the Avarniyas, if they do bhakti, simply by doing Harinama Sankirtanam, Harinama Japa done seriously will reform or will actually elevate anyone. It doesn't have to belong to any Varna. Okay, now let's go forward. Trigunas of Prakriti, they have a say on everything in this material existence. Is it possible to go beyond them? This question is also addressed in the Bhagavad-gita. Very much that's the purpose of Bhagavad-gita, to show us how to go beyond the three gunas. So this question is present in the 14th chapter. Now, before the question of how to go beyond is asked, Sri Bhagavan makes this observation in the 20th shloka. He says, Gunanetan atityatrin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto amrutamashnute. He says, by transcending, going beyond the three gunas, these three gunas are the ones that produce the material body, dehi samudbhavaha, deha samudbhavaha. That living being becomes free from the miseries of birth, death, and old age. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Dukkaihi. Vimuktaha. He becomes free from these three. And Amritam Ashnute. Amritam Ashnute literally means he actually eats nectar or consumes nectar. Okay, what it actually means is he experiences immortality. Amritam means that which gives immortality. Amrit, that which gives freedom from material existence or mukti. In other words, mukti. So, point being made here is that if a living being is able to go beyond the three gunas, they reach that muktavastha. They reach the state of mukti. So now, after hearing this point from Bhagavan, it triggers Arjuna's questions. Arjuna asks actually in one shloka, he asks three questions. So, Arjuna uvacha कैर्लिङ्गैस्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचारः कथं चैतान् स्त्रीन् गुणान् अतिवर्तते. So he says, by what characteristics can we know that someone has gone beyond the three gunas? Kaihi lingaihi. Lingam means the symptom or a characteristic or a mark, indicator. Kaihi lingaihi एतान् त्रीन् गुणान् अतीतः इति वयं ज्ञातुं शक्नुमः. ज्ञानान् गुणान् एतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो. And किमाचारः, what is the conduct of such a person? If a person has gone beyond the three gunas, how do we see it in their activities? How does that become visible? Their being beyond the three gunas in their activities, in their conduct, or in the way they think. And finally he says, katham cha etan strin gunan ativartate. So how do I ever go beyond the three gunas? How does anyone go beyond the three gunas? Please tell me the answers to these three questions. So Arjuna's three questions are, the first is, what are the characteristics of one who is beyond the gunas? What is the conduct of such a person? And how does one go beyond the three gunas? The first question is answered in the next shloka, 14.22, one shloka. The second question is answered in three shlokas, 23 to 25. And the third question is answered in the shloka after that, 26, again in one shloka. Okay, and then in the next shloka after that, the chapter concludes. So, Sri Bhagavan uvacha prakashascha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava न द्वेष्टि संप्रवृत्तानि न निवृत्तानि काङ्क्षति प्रकाशश्च प्रवृत्तिं च मोहमेव च पाण्डव न द्वेष्टि संप्रवृत्तानि न nivrittani काङ्क्षति. Very beautiful shloka. So he says, oh Pandava, he's addressing Arjuna as Pandava. He says, a person who is actually gone beyond the three gunas has this one characteristic in them, that they neither despise or dislike or push away something that comes from sattva, rajas, or tamas, regardless of whether it comes from sattva, rajas, or tamas. For example, what comes from sattva is knowledge, illumination, the sense of being knowledgeable, that experience. Similarly, what comes from rajas is the tendency to pursue material activities, the thoughts that make you want to pursue a material activity with the intent to get something in return from it. And what comes from tamas is delusion, things like sleep, laziness, etc. Moham. Okay, so prakashaha, pravrittihi, moham. Three words are used in the first part of the shloka. Illumination, activity, or the tendency to do material activities, and the tendency to do activities like sleeping, moham, delusion, etc. So these, they come by themselves in our material existence. Even for a person who is beyond the gunas, these may appear in their consciousness sometimes because of being here, the inertia. Or because of being here, even though they have gone beyond the three gunas or about to go beyond the three gunas, they are in that very advanced stage. These experiences may come, but when they come, they neither, say that, they don't become frustrated. They don't get disturbed by them, nor do they look for them when they are not there. Nor do they're completely detached. They just observe them. They're able to observe the effect of the three gunas on their own consciousness. Whereas the others who are under those three gunas, they are not merely observers. They know that the three gunas are acting. Even when they know the three gunas are acting, they are dragged by them. Okay, that's the difference between being under the gunas and above them. When you observe, when you're above them, you experience them, but you just observe them. But when you're under them, you're actually dragged, or you're pushed by them. Okay, so this is the difference. And he says, na dveshti sampravrtani. When they come by themselves, he does not despise them. Na nivrittani kankshati. When they go away, when that effect goes away, he doesn't hanker for it to come back. So this is the state of a person who is beyond the gunas. So if a person experiences this, then they should know that they are beyond the three gunas. Now, the next three shlokas tell us about the conduct of the person. Udasina vadasinaha gunairyo na vichalyate guna vartante ityeva yova tishtati nengate. Such a person does not become disturbed. He is situated as they conduct their activities. They conduct them with a vision of neutrality, knowing that something that fails or something that succeeds, both are happening by the virtue of the three gunas. My job is to just do what I'm supposed to do. There also, it's not me who is doing anything. It's me who is just desiring and, exercising that willingness to do something. But actually, the activity is carried out by the three gunas. The three gunas are present in everything. Okay, such a person in their consciousness is firmly situated. So here, firmly situated doesn't mean physically immobile like a tree. No, it means in the consciousness. Consciousness is firmly situated, undisturbed, unaffected. Na ingate. You can see this last word here, na ingate, nengate. Na nengate means na ingate. Ingate in Sanskrit means that which is shaken or disturbed, which is wavering, okay, which gets shaken. Na ingate does not get disturbed, is unaffected, is said to have gone beyond the gunas. Okay, the person goes about doing all their work. Within themselves, they are very neutrally disposed towards anything. Some happy, what would normally cause happiness to somebody, what would normally cause misery to somebody, both these kind of things neither cause happiness nor disturbance of any kind nor misery to this person. He observes both of them with the same cheerfulness, his inner cheerfulness. For such a person who's beyond the gunas, There is an inner sense of joy, a continuous sense of joy inside. So through that state of being in that continuous joy, he observes everything as it happens. Samadukha sukha swastaha samaloshtaashmakanchanaha tulya priya priyo dhiraha tulya nindatma sanstutihi. Again, very beautiful shloka which shows how balance exists. Balance. Sama, the word sama is used multiple times here, you can see. So one who is situated in their own self beyond the guna is able to treat both pleasurable and miserable situations equally, does not complain. Suppose there is a very bad situation, you will not see them complaining at all. You just say, okay, it happens. You just explain that, yeah, this kind of things happen. We just have to learn how to navigate it. Similarly, something very happy producing situation happens, does not celebrate, does not get carried away. Okay, good. The good thing happened. Okay, happy new year. The new year tomorrow is today. Okay, happy new year. That's all over. No going around, jumping. So this kind of looking at some situation, a situation of great happiness, situation, some other situation, a lot of misery, that imbalance is not there. He's balanced, goes through, because inside himself is living in a state where he's constantly experiencing that connection with his own self, with God, with Bhagavan. Owing to that, he's able to navigate through both of these situations with a neutral mentality. Okay, and you can see here, sees mud, sama, loshta, ashma, kanchana. Loshtam means mud, a lump of clay, mud. Ashma means like rock or stone. And kanchana, kanchana means gold. So all of them are equal in his vision. It doesn't matter. Okay, you have to use mud somewhere, use it. You need to use stone somewhere, use it. You need to use gold somewhere, use it there. Okay, neither runs behind gold nor is averse to it. Sees it equally, just like he would see mud or stone. That's all. Sees likable, okay, tulya priya apriya, equally. Again, very similar to saying pleasurable and miserable. Likable situation. Somebody praises that person. Somebody condemns that person. Somebody criticizes that person. Somebody praises them. The person who praises does not mean he is my best friend from tomorrow onwards. The person who condemns what I did doesn't become my enemy. Both are equal. They are, after all, praising or condemning for some reason. There must be some reason, and ultimately, everything is ruled by the three gunas. The three gunas are making them behave in that manner. So he's undisturbed. He's equally friendly towards everybody. Okay, Maitri is one guna, right, of a sattvic person. A person who's beyond the gunas is even more. So he is friendly, willing to help anyone, equally disposed. He does not say that the person who praised me or person who did a favor to me becomes my best friend. He's a good fellow. Oh, acha admi hai, oh, bura admi hai. This kind of thing is not there. Likable and unlikable situations equally is said to have gone beyond. Treats tulya, ninda, atmastutihi. Atmastutihi, ninda. Both are treated equally. So this conduct is visible in a person who has gone beyond the three gunas. मानापमानयोस्तुल्यः तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारंभपरित्यागी गुणातीतः स उच्यते. You can see that it's a continuation of the last shloka where honor and dishonor are treated equally, treating friendly and inimical people equally. Of course, it doesn't mean that if someone comes to, say, attack you, then you have to just say, okay, I'm supposed to treat him like the way I treat a friend, so let me embrace that guy. If somebody comes and slaps me on the right cheek, I also give my left cheek, and now you slap me on that. There's some famous personality who's attributed to saying things like this. No, no, no. That doesn't make any sense. That's not what is meant here. What it means is that how he takes it internally. Okay, now in practical action, in society, when you act, if somebody comes to attack you, then obviously you have to defend your body, right? Even if you know that you are not the body, it doesn't mean you say, I'm not the body, so do whatever you want. After all, this body is going to die. No. You have a responsibility. I mean, as long as you live in this life with a body, in society, you have a social responsibility. Now, in the matter of social responsibility, you have to conduct yourself in the appropriate manner. So even though internally you are not disturbed, if somebody comes to attack you, you have to retaliate accordingly. You have to respond accordingly. When I say retaliate, it means respond accordingly as required for that action. Similarly, if somebody is praising you, then Even though internally that praise does not disturb you, externally you may say, okay, thank you, kind of you to say that. You won't think like, okay, this is praise, it doesn't matter for me. So you just turn away, turn and walk away. No, if you turn and walk away, the other person will think you're rude. So socially, you conduct yourself in a way that is socially appropriate. So the other person may not be able to make out. At the same time, you're not carried away. You don't go behind that guy because that fellow praised you. So you have that balance. So practically how action is manifested and internally how the consciousness is, they may sometimes look different. You have to be very aware of that. Okay, ultimately, here it also says Sarvarambha Parityagi. So the basis for all this, we'll see the common strain, the common thread through all of this balance that we talked about is the rejection of the pursuit of material enjoyment. So no decision is taken based on the opportunity for material enjoyment. Here there is more enjoyment, so I'll go towards that. Here there is not so much enjoyment, so I'll not go towards that. I'll stay away from that. No. You do what is appropriate for that time, place, situation, and so on. And then such a person is said to have gone beyond the three gunas. So we come to know this not because we should start pretending to be this way, because being beyond the three gunas is our goal. By pretending, we can't go beyond the three gunas. Okay? But we should be able to recognize this quality or where we are, assess where we are right now. By looking at this, at least we know where the goal is, what we should aspire for. This gives us a benchmark that we should work towards in course of time. Okay, now the third question, three shlokas for the second question. Now, third question, how do we go beyond the three gunas? Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So here he makes a definitive conclusion. He says, one who serves me exclusively, yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Mamcha. Mam means me, that is Krishna. Mamcha. Cha here, now cha is used in multiple meanings in Sanskrit. Cha can mean also. Cha can mean only, certainly. Avadharanartham means certainly. So if you see the bhashya of the scholars to understand how cha is used here, Shankara bhashya, then bhashya of the future scholars like Sridhara Swami, Madhusudan Saraswati, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishwanatha Chakravarti, Baladev Vidyabhushan, all of them say that cha refers to avadharana. Avadharana means certainly, emphasis. When you want to say emphasis, mam eva, by serving only me. Yaha avyabhicharena means how serving me, how? Not once in a while, not like, okay, मेरा सब कुछ हो जाएगा तब मैं रिटायर होकर के भगवान की सेवा करूंगा. Not like that. Avyabhicharena means unbroken, intransient, steadily, continuously, steadily. Bhakti yogena, through bhakti, by the process of bhakti. Bhakti yogena sevate, sagunan samatitya etan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Such a person will be able to go beyond the three gunas and experience Brahman, experience that supreme universal being called Brahman. Okay, which in other words is Paramatma, Bhagavan, etc. So bhakti is the process for going beyond the three gunas. Bhagavad-gita emphatically says that, and everyone accepts it, even people in the Shankara Sampradaya who are not normally considered as the people on the path of bhakti. They're considered as people on the path of jnana, the jnana marga. Jnana marga is normally associated with the Advaita Vedanta. And the other schools of philosophy, Visishta, Advaita, Advaita, and even other schools like Achintya Bheda, they are associated with bhakti. But even in the Shankara school, bhakti is understood to be the process through which mukti is achieved. Right? Bhakti may not be the ultimate goal, but bhakti is a process through which one goes beyond the three gunas. And bhakti is the basis for going beyond the three gunas. In the 7th chapter, the 14th shloka, the same thing is said. Daivi hi esha gunamai. We saw this shloka in the earlier part of our discussion on three gunas. Daivi hi esha gunamai mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. So there he says that this Prakriti, which is Gunamai, this Prakriti which is endowed with the three gunas, is very difficult to cross over. But Mameva ye prapadyante, those who take my refuge through bhakti. Maya metam tarantite, they go beyond the three gunas. So, what is the logic in saying this? Is Krishna some kind of a dictator that he wants everyone to surrender to him and become his chelas and do what he likes? Not at all. It's because he is beyond the three gunas. Okay, it's something like this. If we want to, charge our mobile, what do? We connect the mobile to the source of electricity, right? There's a charger. The charger is plugged into the source of electricity. Electricity is coming from the place where it's generated. And when we connect our mobile to that, the mobile gets charged. The mobile goes from a state of being not charged to a state of being charged. Similarly, if we have to free our consciousness from the influence of ajnana, from Maya, then we have to connect to that source which is free from Maya, which is free from ajnana. And that source is Bhagavan. So there's a very simple logic here. We connect with that power source, that source of purity, and that purity helps us, that connection to that source of purity helps us to discard our impurity, uncover, remove that veil of impurity which is surrounding us, and then we become pure. That is the simple logic. Bhagavan in his consciousness is not a dictator. In his consciousness, he thinks of himself as a seva, as a sevaka, a person who is engaged in seva. Seva is the most defining property of Bhagavan, prema. Prema is essentially seva bhav. So that seva bhav exists in its perfection in Bhagavan. And he thinks of himself as a sevak of everything else, of the entire universe, of all of existence, of all the living beings. Right? He does his best to ensure that the living beings come to that same state that he is in so that they experience their perfect happiness. So, with this understanding, we must understand bhakti. Bhakti is not something that is enforced on us like, okay, you have no choice. If you want to get something in life, you have to do what I like. Like the way we see in this material world, people who have power extract, work out of others who don't have power. That's not like that. Bhakti is something that's done out of love. It's done out of, the willingness or the keenness to bring others to the happiness that we experience. That is the meaning of bhakti. So, summarizing the three questions that Arjuna asked, the first question, what are the characteristics of one who's beyond the gunas? We saw this. The characteristic is that person neither despises the negative effects of the gunas nor the hankers for the positive effects. The conduct of such a person is that they are completely balanced in all the activities they do. They neither go towards something that gives them better material pleasure and better material fame, honor, etc., nor do they run away from things which are the opposite of that. They are balanced and they go through life with that balance. And to go beyond the three gunas, one should perform ananya bhakti. Bhakti. So ananya, avyabhicharena ananya. Ananya means that which has nothing else, na anya. Uttama is considered the best form of bhakti, and that involves seva bhav. So summarizing the three gunas of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the three gunas. Sattva is good, Rajas is bad, Tamas is the worst. Okay, we should use these three simple words to understand what we should aspire for. We should aspire for the good, we should reject the bad and the worst. And Vishuddha Sattva is the best, Nirguna. So that's why I put it in the top. And if we really have to get the best of ourselves, to become our best self, experiencing or live our best life, that is by going towards Vishuddha Sattva. Now, summarizing everything that we learned under the three gunas, the first is that Sri Bhagavan's Prakriti, Maya, operates using the three gunas. The second point is all beings in material existence are influenced by the three gunas. The third point, the three gunas together bind the living entities to material existence, not in isolation. The three gunas influence different aspects of life differently. We saw details of this. And this is the fourth point. The fifth point is that the influence of all the three gunas is present at all the times, even though one of them is predominant at any given time. So these are the fifth and sixth points. The seventh point is Sri Bhagavan is never influenced by the three gunas, although he is the source of them. And Ananya Bhakti to Bhagavan is the only way to transcend the gunas. There is no other way. Merely jnana is not enough. Jnana at a very high degree, the best form of jnana takes us to the best form of sattva. But still, rajas and tamas are present to a minute degree. And to get rid of them perfectly and become fully mukta is through bhakti. So these are, you can say, an 8-point summary of whatever we learnt under the three gunas of Prakriti. Now, our immediate goal is to increase sattva. That is a practical way to practice, to actually implement all this. We cannot overnight think of being beyond the gunas. Just because we heard about it, we can't start imagining that tomorrow onwards or today onwards I am beyond the gunas and I will now act as if I am a great saint. I'll go and say that, I am balanced in all situations. It won't work. It simply doesn't work because the three gunas are still very much acting upon us. But it doesn't mean that we are helpless. It means that we have choices in front of us that we can make. And by making the right choices, we can actually go towards that state of being nirguna. How do we do that? We focus on increasing sattva first and diminishing rajas and tamas. So, how do we do this? Now, Sri Bhagavan himself gives clues. The Gita doesn't go into much detail about it, although it gives us the basic theory which tells us what kind of things we should do and should not do. Now, there are two shlokas which are specifically pointing to some things. Sri Bhagavan says in the 6th chapter, these shlokas are in the 6th chapter, Natyashnatastu yogosti, na chaikantamanashnataha, na chati swapnashilasya, jagrito naiva charjuna. Natyashnatastu yogosti, na chaikantamanashnataha, न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जागृतो नैव चार्जुन. He says, one who eats too much, ati ashnataha, ati ashanam, means eating too much. Nacha ekantam anashnataha, one who does not eat at all, one who eats too less, fasts too much. Ati swapnashilaha, means one who sleeps too much. Jagritaha means one who is awake too much or who sleeps too less. He says a person who is doing too much of something or too less of something, who is imbalanced, such a person cannot practice yoga, or such a person cannot go towards the state of being more sattvic. To be more sattvic, a balance is required in whatever we do. And so he says in the next shloka, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabhodasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha. This is a very famous shloka in the Gita, very often cited. It says yukta ahara viharasya. Yukta means balanced or appropriate. The word yukta means, one meaning of yukta is connected. The another meaning here that's used is yukta means appropriate. That which is uchitam. In Hindi we say uchit. Appropriate, uchitam. So yukta aharaha. Viharaha. Ahara means food. Eating food in the correct way. Not eating too much, not eating too less. And by upalakshana you can say eating the right kind of food. Okay, when I say eating the right amount, it also means I don't eat the right amount of junk food. It means eating the right amount of the right kind of food. And along with that, it also means eating food at the right time. Eating food not, for example, at 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay, eating food between sunrise and sunset. Eating food in the right times, right quantity, in the right manner. Chewing the food properly. So all of this is included in yukta ahara. Okay, yukta ahara means eating food, the right kind of food at the right times, in the right quantity, in the right way, etc. Yukta viharaha. Vihara means moving around. Okay, I'm showing you the translation also. Traveling, going here and there, going about here. Okay, so today we have, for example, ghumna. Okay, we say, chalo ghumte hai yaar. Kuch kaam nahi hai, aaj chahiye, ghumte hain. So sometimes we see people going around just like that without knowing where they are going. Just go to one place and spend some time there. Then they go to another place, spend some time there, eat something, buy something, lose. Okay, and for some people the whole life goes like that. So traveling in moderation, not unnecessarily traveling. At the same time, not just getting fixed in one place. I won't go out at all. I sit in my room. Okay, we see that extreme also in some people. All the time inside the house. They don't go out. So some amount of moderation. Going out, not going out. Okay, similarly, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. So engaging in desired activities, cheshtasya karmasu. So engaging in the desired activities. So here cheshtasya means cha ishtasya karmasu. Activities which one likes to do. Okay, so there also moderation, not overindulgence, nor staying away thinking that that activity is harmful. So doing activities in moderation. Okay, yukta swapna avabodhasya, sleeping and remaining awake in balance, not sleeping too much, not sleeping too less. For such a person, okay, so he's focused on four things here. One is the eating, second is moving around, the third is about activities, the choice of activities, and the fourth is about sleeping. Okay, so these four, if it's done properly, then yoga removes misery. So yoga removes misery means yoga or the activities, the life of such a person becomes more sattvic. Okay, because misery comes in being rajasic and tamasic. Rajas is misery, tamas is even more misery. Sattva is where freedom from misery happens. So yoga removes misery. Yoga bhavati dukkhaha. Dukkhaha means dukkham hanti iti dukkhaha, one which kills our misery. So yoga or living like this takes us away from misery. So practically speaking, I've identified these dimensions: diet, food, sleep, our activity, work, and recreation. Okay, so four things that Bhagavan said. And finally, which guides them, our indulgence in spirituality, spiritual knowledge, reading Bhagavad-gita, reading the Shastra, contemplating on the Shastra, doing japa, doing dhyana, going to a holy place, going meeting sadhus, meeting saintly people, talking to them, etc. Okay, so all of these are spirituality. So these five types of things in our life, for example, under diet, consciously choosing food which is fresh. Okay, we heard about sattvika ahara, food which is very light, easy to digest. When I say light, what I mean is very easy to digest, food which is having high water content, juicy in nature, food which is vegetarian, vegetable, plant-based food, and food which is pleasant to taste. When I say pleasant, I mean not extremities, not too spicy, not too bland. Okay, having some amount of spice, some amount of bland, salt in it, little bit, not with something which is completely bland or extremely spicy. So on. So food carefully done, and food that is too pungent, too spicy, hard, stale, non-vegetarian food which requires a lot of chewing and so on is to be avoided. In sleep, sleeping adequately, ideally 6 to 7 hours, maybe 8 hours if required. Unbroken sleep means once you go to bed, you wake up only when sleep is complete. Don't wake up in between. Okay, that is the ideal form of sleep. Resting early. So when do we go to sleep? That also, not only about number of hours of sleep, but about when we start sleeping and when we finish the sleep. So going early. Okay, earlier times in more ancient days when there was no electricity, people had to depend on things like candles and lamps and so on. So naturally, the tendency to sleep early also was natural. After sunset, activities would wind down very quickly. Staying up till midnight, beyond midnight was extremely rare. People would go to bed by what is today, considered very early. Maybe by 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m., people would be done. And wake up early, wake up by 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., start waking up. And in that freshness of the morning, start beginning the first activities of the day, like dhyana, puja, or any cleaning that has to be done. Start at that point of time. Okay. And today, what we do, a lot of this is visible today: sleeping very late, rising up late, sleeping, going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and getting up at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Okay. So breakfast becomes brunch, no longer breakfast, it's brunch. So this kind of thing, arbitrary times, okay, not sleeping. So other extreme of this is people who are workaholics. They take pride in that. They take pride in saying that I sleep only 3 hours a day. Okay, there are people who do this, and they do it continuously for a long time. They show that by doing that, did that, and that's why they are successful. They want to show others. Okay, they want to talk about it. So this also is extremely bad. It kills that person. It reduces their lifespan. For some people, it finishes them very early. At a young age, people die. One of the reasons is this, because of excessive work, very reduced sleep, thinking that that was the right thing to do. Okay. That is why you see under the qualities of rajas and tamas, we saw that thinking the wrong thing to be the right thing. Okay, one example is this. Okay, work, karma. Karma, we heard about how working with a sense of duty, not working thinking that, I have to do it because I'm getting a salary, or I have to do it because, I'll get scolded if I don't do it, or doing it with a grudge, doing it with a feeling that, I should, if I don't do it, I'll have to face some consequences. So somehow I'm doing it. Free from greed, free from the lust for the fruits which come from that work. So, working with a focus on these things is the work that we should avoid. Working with a sense of duty is what we should cultivate, and working with a sense for personal aggrandizement. See, of course, here when I should caution you by saying that what we mean is not that we should not give a damn about what we are earning. To live a life, we need to earn salary, we need to maintain the body, we need to have a healthy existence. Otherwise, even spirituality is not possible. So I advise people on this path to become financially independent. If we are not financially independent, then we have to depend on others and go by their opinion, right? If we are financially independent, then we have a choice. If you want to choose spirituality as our way of life, then financial independence is very, very important. But at the same time, work is not done driven by the greed for increasing monetary profit. Instead, it's done as a matter of duty. Okay, there's a fine difference between the two. Okay, finally, recreation. Recreation is very important because without recreation, bodily health, mental health, they are affected. So that's why yukta vihara. Vihara is very important. So vihara, a broader meaning is not just travel, but all kinds of recreation, mobility, activity done as not for any return, not even as a matter of duty, but as a matter of concern for the body and the mind. This is recreation, vihara. So people who don't do any recreation, people who are completely, they're too lazy to, not because they are working very hard. That's one category. People who are working very hard, workaholics, they want to go up in their career, so they don't have time for recreation. That is one extreme. The other extreme is laziness. They don't do any work also, and they're lazy to do exercise also. They don't go and do any kind of, vyayam. At least just go for a walk. Forget about yoga. Forget about going to the gym. Forget about running. Forget about playing a sport. Just walk. Go to a park and walk for half an hour. That is enough. That is enough to keep somebody mentally, in some good state of mind, right? But even that, they're too lazy to walk also. Or it's aimlessly done, arbitrarily, aimlessly. One day you do a lot of it, and one day don't do it at all. Okay, spirituality. Okay, this is the basis for everything. Basis for our yoga is spirituality, where sadhana, systematic, disciplined sadhana. You see, in the life of a spiritualist, in the life of a yogi, okay, whichever path of yoga, regardless of which path of yoga they're following, sadhana is done like the way sports people do it, like a professional sportsman. Okay, today we use the word pro, right? So, how does a pro live their life? If you look at the way a sportsman, a professional sportsman lives their life, it's highly disciplined. Everything, you see, all the things we spoke about, diet, sleep, work, recreation, is perfectly present in the life of a sportsman. And that's why I say very often, I tell my students that, the yogi can learn from a sportsman can learn from a yogi. They can mutually learn from each other. There's so much common between them. So if you look at anybody, look at Virat Kohli or look at Djokovic, or you look at Roger Federer, or look at even our domestic players, cricket players or football players, look at Sunil Chetri. You look at all of them, or look at the women who are becoming popular today, like Smriti Mandana. She had an unfortunate, experience in life recently, but whatever it is, she's a highly disciplined person, right? So there, discipline is about not just about doing something ritualistically, but doing something with meaning. Activities done meaningfully, knowing why you are doing it and being motivated by that why, not because somebody is forcing it on you. You are choosing to do it because you know that it will take you to a higher state of existence. And going through that, willingly accepting the pain and the discomfort. When I say pain, I don't mean pain in a what do you call, in a biological sense. I mean pain in a discomfort sense, psychologically, uncomfortable, psychological discomfort. Accepting that discomfort willingly, in a motivated manner, saying that yes, I'll take it because it will make me better. I'll experience a better life. Okay, this is sadhana, japa, meditation. And the adhyayana, shastra adhyayana, study, parayanam. Parayanam means repeating the same thing again and again. So it's beautiful. And the opposite of that is not doing any sadhana or doing sadhana arbitrarily. Whenever you feel like it, अच्छा लगता है, आज लगता है, करेंगे. नहीं लगता है, नहीं करेंगे. That kind of an attitude. Okay, so whether लगता है or नहीं लगता है, you still do it. That is the pro. Okay, and that is how it should be done. So this is something that we can do right now. We don't have to think about becoming nirguna. Forget about becoming nirguna right now. Right now, just doing this, following these principles. We can elaborate a lot on this, and there's a lot of literature available on this also. But by adopting this kind of a balance in our life and doing things in the right way, it's possible to become very sattvic very quickly. Within just a few weeks, you start experiencing sattva in your life if you live this life. And the sattva increases. As we indulge more and more with Shastra, sattva increases in our life and you know, we develop that reinforcement. We develop reinforcement. And that makes us stronger and stronger. So just like Sarthak went for 90 days, okay, 3 months, he was lucky to get that kind of time in his life and had the strength to make that choice. It's a very big choice he made in his life, and he did that, and I really commend the choice that he made. I got the opportunity earlier this week, to attend a 3-day workshop. It was fully focused on Shastra. It was in Bangalore, conducted by an organization, and it's highly intellectual, on a based on our Shastra, involving Sanskrit, where people speak in Sanskrit. And I went through sessions on different aspects of Shastra, with some exams squeezed in between and so on. And 3 days it was complete, cut off from this world, and in a state where I said, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I like to do, I love to do this. Okay, that kind of a thing. So it takes us more and more towards that, experiencing worlds which we don't experience normally. Being sattvic, as we become more sattvic, we're attracted to this kind of a world. Attraction towards this world becomes more and more, and that is the way towards Bhagavan. This happens naturally. So with this, we will conclude, and I wanted to show this concluding framework. This is a framework which has guided our sessions on Gita. Broadly, Bhagavad-gita is about Bhagavan, the Jivatma, and Prakriti, and connecting them are the concepts of samskara, yoga, and moksha. And in the last 10 sessions, we have touched upon all these topics to some extent. Of course, it's possible to go into each of them in much greater depth. Ours was meant to be an overview, and I hope that both of you, Ashita and Vedangi, got this overview. I wish that some Sarthak also got some benefit in going through all of this once again with me. And now, any questions, comments from your side? We can conclude, and we can now use all this to take IKS-based research forward.
So one question that I had in mind was regarding, so one thing is that when we are saying that we should perform work not from that sense कि, okay, like I just need to because I'm getting a salary, so I just do some bare minimum work and then just pass my day. It should come from a sense of duty, from a sense of that this is my work, this is the duty that I'm supposed to be performing, with a sense of responsibility basically. So
Yes.
when that is there, the requirement would be that I'm working with I'm working in a way that I'm trying to produce my best output, and
Yes.
in doing so it would require a lot of my dedication, my focus, and a lot of effort from my side, which wouldn't that inevitably consume more time as compared to for somebody who was not doing all of those, who was not doing work from that perspective. And if it does require more time, then wouldn't that take away time for the other things that we're talking about?
Not
So this
necessarily.
so, so
Yeah,
this
sorry.
question actually Yeah. So this
Please.
question actually comes from the idea that, when we hear about people who have been, successful in their fields, they often talk about that if you're seeking balance and, if you want work-life balance at the beginning itself, then, things will become really difficult. There has to be some kind of imbalance in the beginning, at least, to, and once you reach there, then you talk about balance and all of those things. So I'm asking from that perspective.
Oh, good question. Very practical question, actually. See, it's not easy to initially understand this, but as you do it, you get to know what I'm saying. Uh, I have a friend who works in one of the Tata Group companies. It's a manufacturing company called Tata Hitachi. They make earth movers. Tata Hitachi earth movers are very popular in India. Um, the this person, my friend, my close friend, he's deeply into spirituality and the path of bhakti, and that's how the friendship between me and him also developed over time. Now he is a good example for me for, as far as this particular point is concerned. He has chosen very consciously not to exert himself beyond a reasonable amount. He's very sincere to his work. He's very sincere and he has progressed in the hierarchy in the company over time. He is now in a fairly senior position. Now, although he could have gone much higher, he could have become the CEO of a company, maybe his own company or some other company of an equal stature long back. Because people of his, he's an IIT graduate, he holds IIT BTech. He was actually my senior in IIT Kanpur, and he was he could have easily like his other classmates who have founded their own companies who are in top positions elsewhere in the government here and there, he could also become like that, but he has consciously chosen that he will do his work sincerely, but he will not unnecessarily do things which will just promote him. He will do things as a matter of duty. Okay, so looking at him and observing him, I also borrowed some principles. And I said that, look, as a professor, what kind of responsibilities do I have? I'll do those responsibilities. What responsibilities does the institute expect from me? I'll do them to the best that I can, my ability allows me to do. And as it happens, I also learn. As the process happens, it can't be without learning. Learning naturally happens. And I have tried to borrow principles from him. So I'm able to share these things with you. So this kind of way of working involves where you don't fuel your work with ambition, material ambition, ambition to become something bigger, become something much greater. Instead, you think that as a matter of, for example, now you join a job. Initially, when you join a job as a young person, let's say in your 20s, you will be called as some management trainee or something. As a management trainee, what are you expected to do? Certain things will be given to you, they'll be spelt out to you. You do them sincerely. And naturally, as a management trainee, you are posted somewhere after the training is over into some role as some kind of assistant manager or something. Now, you do that role as sincerely as you can. Okay, but as you do your work, you also learn, it's very important to learn this. You learn that there are some ways in which work can be done by which the work is done properly and unnecessary things are avoided. This is something that we learn by actual execution. When we work, we learn to avoid things which are unnecessary. Now, some people never learn this, and that is why they get stressed out. That's one of the sources of stress. You end up doing things which are unnecessary. You get dragged into them actually. Okay. For example, somebody writes an email with some comments in them. Now, should I respond to that email or not? Very important. And you will see some people, they respond to every email. They have to say something. Okay, it's just like in WhatsApp. In WhatsApp, a message comes, you have to respond to it. Now, with some maturity, you realize that you don't have to respond. Why do you need to respond to every email which comes? And when you respond to an email, do you need to write 10 sentences to communicate what you need to say? Can't you just write it in one sentence or two sentences without sounding rude? You can be polite and still respond in a very brief manner. Can you use less words? Can you do things in a more efficient manner? So we are not trying to be lazy here. We are just trying to do things in a way that is appropriate. Okay, so this way, by learning to do work, you achieve this balance. First of all, you get rid of ambition, work driven by ambition. You do work as a matter of duty. So you do work which is necessary to be done and which is, avoid things which are unnecessary. You don't unnecessarily stay longer. You do things in a way that is clever. So this cleverness has to be brought in and has to be consciously sought for. You have to seek it out in your work. If you don't seek it out, it will not come. You have to seek it out and shape your way of working so that this balance happens. And by doing that, you will grow in your growth. Naturally, you can't be a management trainee for life. Naturally, the company will promote you. If you do 3 years in some particular post, naturally promotions happen. Of course, you may also apply for a promotion, but if a promotion doesn't come, you don't get disappointed. You're willing to continue in the same way because for you, duty is a way to go towards God. Duty is not a way to become more powerful in this world, right? That's why in your mind you're always happy. So, Vedangi, have I addressed your question to some extent at least?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's something that it's not necessary that when you're young you have to. So this is a misconception people have that now you're young until the age of 40 you have to work very hard and you have to burn all the midnight oil and this and that and बाद में आपको मिलेगा. This is not necessarily true. This is maybe true in some particular industries where there's so much competition and so on. But even there, I'm sure that somebody can work it out, can work out, a path for themselves where they may not necessarily get promoted. Of course, people who work harder and people who burn more midnight oil may get faster promotions. They'll become more powerful over time. They'll become occupy bigger responsibilities. And you may not get that because you have taken a more balanced approach. But that is where the sacrifice happens. You make a sacrifice for the higher thing, right? You grow slowly, they grow faster. But you have chosen to grow slowly because of a higher reason. And that strength is what comes from reading the Shastra. When we read the Shastra like Bhagavad-gita, we develop that strength to make these choices, which other people will not find very meaningful. They won't be able to understand why we are doing that.
Mm.
This requires some thinking. Just think over it. It may not be easy to fully understand what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. So if we want people, people at the hem or people at the top to be more, to be coming from more sattvic kind of nature, but when we see that, choosing this lifestyle, we have to make certain compromise in terms of, okay, what is coming more naturally in terms of the fruits. I'm accepting that, and I'm not trying to, deliberately, I'm not trying to achieve certain positions or something. So, and there are other people who are actually deliberately trying to reach the top and they want to be at that hem and everything. So in that case, aren't we kind of compromising on who those people are who are governing everybody else? So sort of
Yes, that
reducing the
is true.
sattvic nature in the
Sometimes, yeah,
leadership.
I agree with you. Sometimes such choices that we make, we may allow somebody who is not really the best person for the job to become that. So in such situations, we have to think of the consequences involved. Sometimes the consequences may not be all that ours. A person who is less qualified may go sit on the top because I didn't work hard enough to acquire that post. Ideally, I should have done it. If I was there, I could have done it better. But this guy is, not going to do it so well. Now, yeah, there is a trade-off in doing that. There is a trade-off in doing that. But that trade-off gives us a return on something that is more meaningful, something that is the purpose of our life. Why do we exist as human beings? The purpose of life is to go towards Bhagavan. So, in the process of doing that, certain compromises may happen. But then you realize that ultimately, when we hear about how the three gunas of Prakriti are the ones that control everything. So, maybe if I was there, the organization would have made better profits. The organization would have done a little better than what it's doing now with this guy at the top. But yes, after all, the organization is some material entity, and it's also subject to the three gunas. So we reason out a trade-off with ourselves by doing that.
Mhm.
That's how
Okay,
I
sir.
have been reasoning out. That's how I have been reasoning out with myself when I have made some trade-offs like this, of this type.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay,
a
sir.
trade-off is required when you require something higher, and what you're doing is not only beneficial for you. If you develop sattvic a sattvic nature, and if you live in sattva, then so many others around you also are influenced by it. That we must realize.
Mm.
So it's not a selfish thing. It's not by for my selfishness I'm avoiding work and things like this. Not like that. It is that, okay, I have made some trade-offs, but I've done these trade-offs to become more sattvic. And as a result of my being more sattvic, so many others, people in my family, my children, my spouse, my co-workers, they are influenced and they will then come to you. You'll see people coming to you for advice, people coming to you for in your case, you are already a counselor. Even without thinking of these things, you are in the profession of counseling. Now you will find that if you do this, your counseling quality may actually improve significantly. You'll be able to counsel people with more perspectives from the spiritual side too, right?
Yes, sir.
These perspectives will help you in your counseling. Your counseling will become even better. That's how I look at it.
Mm. Yes, sir.
Good. Ashita, anything from your side?
So can we map this kind of work like not attracted towards that much of success, not exerting oneself too much, and not being, influenced by the success and everything? Is this a part of Swadharma?
Yeah, of course. Swadharma, see, the way Swadharma is defined, ambition of the way that we see today. See, today's the ambitions we see in the corporate world, and for that matter, even in the academic world, even in institutes, universities, people step on each other's heads to go to the top. People will do anything. I mean, people will do all kinds of things that you will consider, cinematic in nature. People are willing to give up their spouse and give up their relationships for getting a promotion, getting a pay raise, getting a favor from somebody, becoming more powerful. That kind of ambition is not at all there in Swadharma. Swadharma is about doing your duty sincerely. It's just about duty mindedness, even for the Shudra. Say Sattva, you see, when we talk about Shudra being in Tamas and the Brahmana being in Sattva and the other two being a mix of the two, a mix of the three gunas. What we mean is not that the Shudra is in complete tamas. Complete tamas, nobody is. Even animals have some sattva in them. The Shudra has a relatively greater amount of tamas than the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. That's all. So there is enough sattva in the Shudra also to discriminate and say that I should look for doing my duty sincerely because that is where I will get my life's perfection. Okay, even the Shudra may think in terms of going to Swargaloka eventually by doing their work sincerely. So the point is that yes, Swadharma includes this balance. The balance is part of Swadharma, being free from ambition, material ambition as we see it today. When I say ambition, I don't mean the lack of responsibility. Ambition doesn't mean lack of goals. See, all work is done with specific goals. There are targets. Any work involves targets. So don't confuse between targets, goals, and ambition. Ambition, I mean the craving to become more powerful, the relentless craving. That's what I mean, the greed. You follow? That's a different thing. So being goal oriented, being focused, doing things with well defined, duties. By the end of today, I must finish this much. That kind of a thinking is very much part of duty. In fact, it actually drives the way we do work. Very much it is. That's why I said professional. Being a professional, but being free from the ambition, like the way you see modern people have. Yeah, Ashita?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Vedangi, the overexertion is what they are saying should be avoided. Overexertion is, yeah, it comes because of, see, when I say overexert, that's something that individual has to decide what is over and what is not over. The symptom of overexertion would be that there is burnout. If there is no burnout, but you're enjoying that work, if you're enjoying working 16 hours a day, if somebody enjoys working like that, and that's still makes them feel better by doing that, and they feel good about themselves, then that's not overexertion. It may be from overexertion from somebody else's point of view, but from their point of view, it is not overexertion. So individual capacities, abilities, and tendencies are different. So working according to Swabhav can result in different manifestations for different people. That is perfectly fine. We know that we are overexerting. I know I am overexerting when I'm experiencing burnout, when it affects my sleep, when it affects my normal peace of mind. Then there is overexertion. Otherwise, if I'm enjoying that work, doing that way, doing it dutifully 16, 18 hours a day, then there's no problem. Go ahead and do it. If you think that is your
Mm-hmm.
normal nature, do it. No problem.
Even then, so for me, sometimes, like, when I do feel like, I'm burning out, I usually tell myself that, so I usually tell myself that if I want to, do something good, then this is the natural thing that is any which way going to happen. So I need to accept, okay, I'll, I'll take rest for some time, but then this is a natural course of thing. If I have to do something good, then this is, this is something that I need to make peace with. So that's how I I have been kind of um, rationalizing, even when I was feeling the that burnout, I would still sort of rationalize with myself that this is
Ah,
the, this is any which way going to happen.
yeah.
So
So,
that I
so
think,
good. So you may find balance in doing that. You may find that, okay, after all, none of us can take beyond a certain amount of burnout. But it's about introspecting and asking yourself, why am I doing this? Am I doing it
mm,
because of a sense of conscientiousness? Yes, conscientiousness is something that we want. We should be driven by conscientiousness or our conscience, which tells us that this is the right thing to do. Do it, even if it causes burnout, do it because it's good for somebody. I'm helping somebody and I'm feeling good about it. But by introspection, can we separate out, is there a component of, me becoming more popular among my people? Am I going to become more famous because of this? Is there a component that drives it? If so, then remove that component. And then with
mm,
whatever balance is left, decide how much to do. So after
mm,
all, we have to internally, each one of us individually has to introspect and decide where we want to set this balance. But by itself,
mm,
working 18 hours is not bad. By itself, it's not bad. It's about our individual capacity and our individual choices.
yes, sir.
So
Understood.
that's why I said Swabhav is a very unique personal thing. Our Swabhav
Mm,
is, shaped by our past lives. Our past lives, our past samskara have shaped our Swabhav. So there's no one shoe fits all solution for this. Individually, we have to
mm,
decide, knowing these things, keeping these things at the back of our mind.
yes, sir.
So we can continue to talk about these things over time. You're going to be here for another 3.5 years, and we have completed 10 modules of Gita together. And whenever you feel that we can go for another similar set of modules, let me know. We will start again with some other topic. We can go into some of these topics in more depth. We can discuss and identify some topics where we can go in more depth, and we can decide appropriately at that point of time. Okay, so shall we close for today? For now. ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे धन्यवादाः पुनर्मिलामः